So I ask you the question, what do what do
Yes.
you bring?
So, it's interesting because I had been reflecting on like what would I want to like what could be a not exactly an elevator speech, but kind of like, what is it that if I were to be, asked as I am being asked to be on a panel or whatever, what would be something that I would want to share. And this fits so perfectly into the question number one about the future of the country. So I don't remember. Don't know how much. I know Rick had emailed me about you, but I don't know how much he told you about me. And so resilience is an area that I've done research in with Holocaust survivors, with former gang members, and uh, children growing up in homes for children in India, Nepal, and so on. But the truth is the word resilience. The first time somebody said that I was resilient was when I was going through a divorce. This was like close to 20 years ago. Well, 25 years or so. And I'm like, oh, resilient, that's a kind of an interesting word. And then fast forward about 10 years later, I was invited to be a principal investigator on a study of resilience in Holocaust survivors. So that became a sort of a theme for me, as you could hear, that led to other ways that I could bring it into the work that I do. And so at the beginning of this year, so there were a series of things that happened 2 or 3 days in a row, including the fires in Pacific Palisades and Altadena. And I used to live close to Altadena, and there were fires a few years ago also in that area. But now I live closer to the ocean, and many people I know lost homes in Palisades as well as Altadena. And so I was at an event because I left to get out of the smoke and terrible air quality and was already going to be in Santa Barbara, but I spent an extra day there. And I introduced at a panel that was speaking about books that Fielding published at Fielding University Press. And I co-edited and co-authored a book on resilience. So I was able to stand up and talk a little bit about it. And I said, I feel compelled to get back to this work now. And suddenly the words Resilience 2.0 popped into my head. And I think some of that came from the fact that people were talking about Trump 2.0. And, I've been exploring sort of what is the meaning of this 2.0 concept. And resilience does not always have a good rap. So I was in Maui earlier this year, and somebody was saying, like there's this pushback that somehow people are going to bounce back, like they've had these terrible fires in Maui as well, and that they're resilient, they're strong, and so on. But they're also hurting, and they don't want to go back to some kind of equilibrium that no longer exists. So I'm kind of working on this idea of resilience 2.0. But let's face it, I mean, also part of being an elder is how do you take the experiences that were working for you in like so for example I watched the 6 minute interview you did with Rick, and I think there was some discussion about the idea of being busy, or I tell people I'm active because people say you're always so busy, or aren't you going to relax now that you're retired? And I said I'm an active person. I mean, when I was in fourth grade or something like that, I was taking piano lessons, playing softball and volleyball and blah blah blah, and dance lessons too. I think this is just the nature of who I am. I'm not going to suddenly transform into this stereotype of what it means to be retired. So anyway, my point, circling back to the panel and the first question is, so I've been working on this. Somebody told me just call it a project because I don't know if I'm going to write or do podcasting or Substack, all the things that people like yourself do to get some concepts out. But resilience for the resistance. And I did a little
Say
presentation.
that again. Say that title again.
Resilience for the resistance, like being an activist, being an advocate, being an activist. Um, and so I did a PowerPoint. I'll be happy to send that to you because you can get a sense of like what are the concepts I'm trying to build on resilience that we know about from research and how people are using the concept of resilience, but to be an activist, to be putting yourself on the line in many cases in a protest or even on social media, making certain statements, you're putting yourself at risk of being attacked by people who don't agree with you, or being picked up by ICE if you look a certain way or whatever. So my idea of resilience for the resistance in this Resilience 2.0 is, what do people need now to be able to survive in this very, very destructive environment?